sign waivers if we're gonna spin their tools faster.
Yeah.
than they want to.
That's one of their fear tactics. So you're the company man out there, and they'll come out with a piece of paper and say, okay, if you want to turn it this fast, you need to sign right here. If you break those tools, you got to buy them. And we take your firstborn. And you're like, you're just a company man, right? It's not like you're the head of drilling manager. You're like, oh, geez, my name's on there? Shit. Let's just turn it down. You're like, yeah, that's what I thought. It's a dirty trick. Do that. What else?
Horrible question. But you were kind of, like 40,000 feet is a lot now. You'd say 60's on the horizon. Where's the practical limit? And it's a horrible question, but just speculate.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. It totally depends on the reservoir. And so anybody who's involved with reservoir engineering probably likes that answer. If you've got a big enough deposit, then man, the sky's the limit. Those Exxon wells, they cost around $50 million. BP had a project in Alaska called Liberty where they were going to drill 50,000-foot wells. That was a $1.5 billion project, and they were only going to drill 5 wells. But it was totally economic. Each well was like $250 million. But there's so much oil at Liberty, they're like, that's easy money. Yeah, well, not $30 oil, but back then it was easy money.
So it's all just
If
money.
you've got a big enough prize, yeah, the technology exists today to go do it. So it just depends on the economic prize.
One of our favorite sayings when I was working in the field was one of your guys when you said, you got the money, you have to do it. It just takes money.
I always try to screw us up.
Maybe make it well economic, but I can do it.
Me to pay for your weird addictions.
What kind of finishes were you trying on the drill pipe?
Well, so we tried line aligning was one of the things. So we went down to like a truck bed place and sprayed that on there, and that did pretty good. We tried that like high friction paint that has sand mixed into it. That worked pretty good. But what worked the best is we took expanded metal. So does everybody know what that is? Like where they take a sheet and they punch it and then they pull it apart. And you get those little diamond patterns. It's like really a high friction surface if you're walking in. It also allows drainage, like on grates, on pits and stuff. They'll have expanded metal. Well, we took that real thin expanded metal and we wrapped it around the pipe, welded it, and holy cow, the viscous coupling was out of this world. A little bit unpractical though, because there's not many people that will let you go weld expanded metal on their drill pipe.
And how would that affect your casing if you had to rotate your casing with that?
That would probably not be very good either. The version that we experimented with, the tool joints were still considerably bigger than the expanded metal OD. So if you have range 2 drill pipe, usually the tube doesn't touch the hole, and that's another thing you can calculate in the software, by the way. But you can calculate whether or not the tube is prone to touching, and as long as the tube's not touching, you're probably fine. What would really worry me, and I think even more since Macondo, is that if you've got a surface like that on the tube, the ability to close and seal either your annular preventer or your rams is not very good. So from a well control standpoint, you could shear it probably. But
What about the effects of weight?
yeah, I think if you got thin enough stuff, you could compensate for that. And certainly with aluminum, you could do all sorts. The other interesting thing about the manufacturing process for aluminum, they could do all sorts of crazy things just through the extruding process of the tubes. But we just never made enough progress with it to really pinpoint exactly what would be the optimal ideal combination. Go ahead, let's try for There might be another thing I just have to upload for you guys. What I can show you something which is quite enlightening was an old flow loop experiment, and this was even super small hole. And something I did. This was like 4-inch pipe with a 4-inch casing with a 2-inch pipe in it, and it's buried in a bed of cuttings. So there's 2-inch drill pipes down here. They're spinning 150 RPM, and they've got good viscosity. This isn't water. They've got good viscosity mud, and you can see that the dirt just hops and skips and jumps up the hole. It's not the image that was always implanted in my mind that if you rotate, all the dirt is up suspended in the mud and it stays there. That is not what happens. I proved this back like in 1986. So we've got this hopping, skipping, jumping, only temporary suspension of dirt. Most of the dirt is on the low side. And that's in the smallest hole that you will ever come across in your drilling career. It only gets worse as the hole gets bigger and the pipe gets smaller. And it was eye-opening for me. The other thing, we haven't talked about this but a lot, but it's not hole cleaning while drilling that's a problem, it's while you trip out. And the whole problem with tripping out is that people pull out of the hole and they think that they've got a clean hole, but in reality they don't. They ignore the warning signs, which is hook load starting to deviate from what the hook load should be. And it happens very slowly over the course of several hundred feet. But eventually, the cuttings that are down there gravel pack themselves around the bottom hole assembly, because that's your tightest flow area places. Well, if the first thing we do is turn the pumps on, then that dirt doesn't have anywhere to go, and it typically, it doesn't do this. This is the wrong video. What usually happens is when you turn the pumps on, you've reached a point of no return where there's no room for the dirt to go, and the little flow area that you have on the top of the VHA seals off, and you create a pack-off. And that pack-off is a very violent rupturing of the borehole. Because upstairs, there's this huge latency between when you see a pressure spike on the pressure gauge and when it actually happened. It can be 20, 30, 40, 50, over a minute after it actually happened downstairs because of the time that it takes for the pressure wave to travel. So if you've got weak formations, this pack-off can do irreversible damage to the rock that you then have to live with for the rest of the well. When you frack the rock, it's no longer as stable as it once was. BP spent $50 million on North Star. I don't know if you guys were up there when they drove NS33, but this is exactly what they did. We made this video to show them what they did to their well. They were trying to blame it on the mud, trying to blame it on the geologists. They did it to themselves. They pulled into a tight spot, they turned the pumps on, and blew the hole apart. That is totally avoidable by simply running away from the tight spot. When you see overpull on a horizontal well, you always got to go the opposite direction before you ever even think about turning the pump on. But that's not what's hardwired into drillers' brains. Drillers have been conditioned to believe that when they see a tight spot, that the pump will help them. The pump does not help until you get away from it first in a horizontal well, because you always have to assume that cuttings is the source of your problem. It might not be, but there's absolutely no danger in running away from something that's not cuttings. You know, if you got a geometry problem or swelling shale or PC dogleg, whatever, there's nothing wrong with running down, circulating and rotating for a little bit, and then trying it again. If the tight spot's in exactly the same place that it was before, well, you know it's not cuttings. If the tight spot moves up the hole, well, that's not a dogleg. Doglegs don't just move up the hole. It's got to be cuttings. So you just prove to yourself that, hey, we just need to circulate a little longer, be a little more patient, and flush the cuttings out of it.
Excellent thing is holding to drop down 2 stands, maximum rate, maximum rotation, and then you try to come back up through it again, see if it's still there.
Exactly. He who runs away lives to fight another day. Or she. He or she.
What rig is that?
That's E&I on the North Slope at their Nakayachuck project. It's Neighbors 241, is that right? They're not drilling right now, but they were for quite a while.
Well, thank you, Brandon.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. I hope to see a bunch of you guys in February.